This is Candor Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get right into the show. But before we get into the show, don't forget to check out our website, sylviaexpress.com. Hey, fabulous people. How you doing on this Saturday? Okay, so this is Candor Talk, and let me just get right into it. Okay, so Trump base isn't liking him these days. It's like, okay, as if the omnibus bill wasn't enough to send Trump's base over the edge. Now he's sending the National Guard to allegedly protect the borders, but he hasn't begun building anything that looks remotely similar to a wall. As a matter of fact, he's looking at little fences, little fences. And let me just tell you guys something, for those Trump supporters who do listen to the show. This is a reminder. Here is the imposter promising the border wall at different times. Here it is.
We're going to build a wall. I could wait about a year and a half until we finish our negotiations with Mexico, which will start immediately after we get to office, but I don't want to wait. Mike Pence is leading an effort to get final approvals through various agencies and through Congress for the wall to begin. I don't feel like waiting a year or a year and a half. We're going to start building.
Build that wall. 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 We're going to have strong, incredible borders, and people are going to come into our country, but they're going to come into our country legally. They're going to come in legally. We're going to build a wall. It's going to be built. It's not even, believe it or not, it's not even a difficult thing to do.
Okay, so it's not even a difficult thing to do, so why haven't you done it? Why haven't you done it? He promised the wall while he was in office and during his campaign, over and over and over again. Now his base, they're impatient. They're unwilling to hear his meaningless rhetoric anymore. From immigration hawks to white supremacists, Trump is now officially trash to them unless he can build that wall. And so then Trump decides, instead, he's going to send the National Guard to the border. Then do you remember, and you guys recall at those rallies when everyone was screaming, "Send the guard, send the guard, send the guard." I mean, come on. At what point does the con end? The base wanted a wall, and they aren't having it. Here are the alt-right. Some of the alt-right. I mean, because I don't have all of the alt-right. There's so many different comments that are made. You can't actually get all of them at once. But here are some people from the alt-right talking about Trump and that border wall. Here it is.
Trump responds really well to negative pressure. He's got, he was, I think, when he bombed that runway in Syria and he saw Twitter alight with MAGA hats on fire. I think he has to see these memes turned on him about the wall, because during the election, this big, great, big, beautiful wall, the God Emperor and all that stuff, it's got to be turned in the opposite direction, because he is running the risk of having no support. He's got Republicans who are already uncomfortable with him, who are looking for an excuse to run. And you have this base that everybody says, oh, well, Trump's base is loyal to him. They're never going to abandon him. As Trump says, I could go shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and they would still love me. Well, not if you start screwing everybody on immigration.
And it's going to take that sort of tough love. It's going to take the realization that he can't just keep, hand-waving and giving lip service. He's going to have to deliver. And I think having somebody like Ann-Coulter, who he pays attention to, somebody like Tucker Carlson, who he pays attention to, he watches them on the shows, and when they start really getting hardcore criticizing what he has not done, the way he's not delivering, what it's going to do come November or even further on, he actually, he doesn't want the legacy of being a loser. This is a man who's spent his entire life upset. So,
Okay, so they're just like, look, you know what? This guy is failing. He's a failure. And these are people who literally supported him hardcore. And then again, the Wicked Witch of the West, Ann-Coulter. And I'm not playing her because I want to give her a platform or help. She already has a really, really big platform, but it's not because of that, because I despise her. But it's important because she actually led a lot of this Trump movement that helped to get him elected into office. She wrote a book, In Trump We Trust. Listen to how she's talking about him now. Here it is.
In recent days, you've inaugurated the phrase former Trumpers. What are former Trumpers, and why should he be terrified of them?
The former Trumpers should keep Donald Trump awake at night. We're the ones who didn't care about the Access Hollywood tape. He had absolute rock solid, locked us in on support because we thought we wouldn't be betrayed. Finally. He could sell Ivanka Trump merchandise from the Oval Office if he would just build the wall. If he doesn't have us anymore, no, that's what he should be worried about, because you play those people for suckers. The one who stood by him through thick and thin and thought this was finally something different. Finally, we have a politician who's not going to lie to us. No, former Trumpers should put the fear of God in him.
1 month into Donald Trump's presidency, you said, so far I give him an A+.
What was...
1 month in.
So far I give him an A+.
Well, he's turned in several more papers at this point, and there have been some final exams and pop quizzes. What's his grade today?
We're halfway through the semester, and he's failing.
Okay, so that was Ann-Coulter. And let me just tell you something. It's not just Ann-Coulter. It's not just some of these people on the alt-right. It's also some of his base that are constantly on places like Breitbart. Here's some of the comments they've made about Trump since this whole omnibus bill and not getting the wall built and then sending to the National Guard. Here's some of the comments. Here's someone said, Trump is dead. He's gone. History, kaput, finished, ended, terminated, fired. He can take his idiot sons, the princess and her undertaker man-boy husband, and fuck back to New York and rejoin the New York Democrat socialist cocktail circuit again. Trump is history, so he should be. Then another one said, amen. No more excuses for Trump. He needs to build the wall as he promised. I think we were duped. I want my vote back. Then a person said, he's the master at a lot of things. BS, con games, 3D chess, Twitter, signing bloated spending bills of pork, and endorsing rhinos. Unfortunately, he's also the master of lying and threw out his campaign promises with Steve Bannon. Here's another one. We need to thump Trump. Primary his lying ass. Then another one says, we have to primary Trump with a real conservative in 2020. Then another one says, primary Trump with Rep. Dave Bratt from Virginia. Then another one says, nonsense, Trump sold his base out, and Ben Franklin warned us what happens if we stay on this path. Another one said, President Trump claimed to be the great deal maker who could get things done. He was empty bragging like everything else he says. Then another person says, it was embarrassing. The picket fence where the repairs were being done, his big smile for, he put it, okay, this person really can't write very well. His big, beautiful wall. He thinks we're idiots. Then another person said, you're actually exactly spot on. Trump heard the backlash and he started spinning the horse shit about the military and Pentagon picking up the tab for the wall. Trump has become a lying-ass clown. Then another one said, DACA repeal day one is now amnesty. We like them. Deportation is now amnesty too. Too many sycophants cheering for his tweets makes it easy for him to con us. Then another person said, he said the budget met all his priorities and the wall wasn't one of them or any enforcement of it. His acts now are part of the scam. And these people really cannot write. It's very difficult to read a lot of this stuff. But anyway, catch and release with no questions as still occurring. Fox and Friends this AM. Fuck Trump. Another one, you are insane. Trump cannot even play checkers, let alone 3D chess. Then another one said, conservatives should want this clown impeached. Another one, who forced that dickhead to sign the omnibus bill? Who forced him to say that DACA was the bill of love? Who forced him to not trying to get the money for the wall? And most of all, who is the fucking commander-in-chief? He's just toying with his supporters. The dickhead doesn't want the wall, period. They're mad, guys. Very, very, very mad. And that's just a summary of some of the things they said. They were the only hindrance, really, to his impeachment. They were the only people that were protecting him from impeachment. Was this base. And now he has literally screwed them over royally and they're not playing with him anymore. And you can go to SylviaExpress.com on Monday and you'll see more Trump regrets. It's just, I'm telling you, things are just not good for him. And now he has legal woes. His legal woes just got way worse. The Stormy Daniels situation. Now listen, I was completely unaware that someone could be as incompetent and flippant and still hold office like the imposter in the White House. Trump single-handedly just blew his own defense in the Stormy Daniels case. Here's what Trump said on the Stormy Daniels case when he was asked questions about it. Here it is.
President, did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels? Then why did Michael-Cohen make it if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael-Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
Do you know where he got the money to make that payment?
No, I don't know.
Okay, that's not really the greatest tape because the recording was actually while they were on the plane. But he says he did not know about the Stormy Daniels agreement. He doesn't know where the money came from, and that questions need to go to Michael-Cohen. Here is why this is significant. If Trump did not sign or agree to that contract with Stormy Daniels, then the contract is invalid. The contract was supposed to be on behalf of Trump. However, Trump says he knows nothing about it. Then, if that's true, as Stormy's lawyer has argued, the contract is invalid. The second thing, I previously stated that I agreed with the judge that denied Stormy's lawyer the right to depose Trump at that time. It was the right decision because if the contract was valid, the federal court did not have jurisdiction to preside over the case because of the arbitration clause in the agreement. Well, now that Trump is saying Michael-Cohen tried to bind him to a contract without his knowledge, that contract isn't valid, which means the case stays in federal court and now Trump will be deposed. A deposition of Trump and the right to seek discovery from Trump puts Trump in serious risk, and that he caused himself. And the third thing is, if his counterclaim against Stormy Daniels for breach of the agreement goes forward, then she has the right to request Trump's tax returns because he's arguing that a breach was damaging to him at the value of $20 million. Well, how do we know that it's $20 million? What kind of money do you make every year? How do we know what your value is? Well, he'd have to prove those numbers by showing that that number was warranted. He'd have to turn over his tax returns. And we all know he doesn't want to turn over his tax returns because he's broke. And then the fourth thing, the worst part for Trump and Cohen, especially Cohen, is that the transfer of that money to Stormy was still illegal. So now that the contract is likely invalid, that doesn't negate the actual transfer of the money. Once it was transferred, the law was broken. So Stormy likely won't suffer any consequences as a result of the alleged breach of contract because you can't breach a contract that doesn't exist. However, Trump and Cohen are still in trouble because that money was transferred for the purposes of aiding Trump's campaign. Look, Joy Ann Reid, she summarizes this scandal perfectly on The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell. And she's a layperson. She's not an attorney, but she summarized it very well. I'm going to play the clip so you can hear what she says. Here it is.
Common sense test here to what the president and Michael-Cohen want you to believe. They would have you believe that his attorney, by himself, took $130,000 of his own money to pay off someone after the Access Hollywood tape that did not impact in any way Donald Trump's ability to be elected. Mm-hmm. And right before the election, give her money, although they believe her to be not credible. Somebody that they have described as having zero credibility. So someone you don't believe can implicate your client, that your client says he never had a relationship with. So you just give this person that he had no relationship other than taking photos with $130,000 of your own money as the lawyer. You create an LLC to give her the money through a secret corporation. You, on your own, as the lawyer, create an alias for your client, David Dennison. You put that alias's name on the agreement, never telling your client you've created an alias, you've created a company, you've taken your own $130,000, not expecting to be paid back, and you do all of that simply because you're afraid a woman will make a claim that you believe to be completely false and not provable, so that she can't even prove she had a relationship with him. What would stop any woman off the street then to just walk up to Donald Trump and say, I too had a relationship with Donald Trump? Why weren't there hundreds of women lining up to get $130,000 in free money for Michael-Cohen? The whole thing makes no sense. You don't have to have gone to law school to understand that that is crazy. We as civilians pay lawyers. We hire someone like Michael Avenatti. They don't pay for our issues. We pay them. So Donald Trump didn't pay his lawyer. His lawyer paid a random woman who all he did was take a picture with in California. This is crazy. And so I think Donald Trump's problem is, to your point, and I think to both of your point, he never should have answered the question. Because the only logical answer to this, right, is of course I had my lawyer do this, and of course I meant to pay him back, which means they attempted to influence the election.
Okay, so I think that summary was just a phenomenal summary, and that's why I felt like you needed to hear it. It was kind of low, the volume, but I apologize for that. Another thing that he did by doing that is that his longtime lawyer, Michael-Cohen, is likely going to get disbarred. If it is true that Michael-Cohen, on his own, just decided to try to bind his client to an agreement and then paid somebody to facilitate the binding of that agreement, Without the client's knowledge, you're getting disbarred. And Trump just basically said that's what happened. So Michael Cohen, good luck with your law practice. It's pretty much over. And then there's Mueller. Now listen, we are all speculating on what Mueller is going to do. This week, we heard reports that Mueller said that Trump was a subject of an investigation, but not a target. And I'll get into that distinction in a minute. But they also said that Mueller intended to submit a report to Congress about Trump's conduct while in office. And I'll get into my theory on that in a minute. But here's what's allegedly happening with the Mueller probe. Here it is.
Special Counsel Bob Mueller, while seeking an interview with President Trump, said to the president's lawyers, look, your client, the president of the United States, is a subject of my investigation, not a target. This is a term of art with prosecutors. A target means your guy is about to be charged with a crime. If you're a subject, it means we're looking at this person's conduct, but that doesn't mean that we link this person to a crime at this stage. It's a tenuous place, though, because a subject can easily become a target.
Lawyers, they need that interview to finish a report about potential obstruction of justice and about Donald Trump's actions while in office, according to the Post.
Okay, so let me just tell you what my theory is on a few things. There are 3 ways that I can see that Mueller can end this investigation. But knowing Mueller, there are probably 100 ways because he's just a badass. But these are the 3 that I see. The first one is he could name Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator, which has the same effect politically that an indictment would have. Trump would look like he conspired with indicted people, and that would force Congress to act. If they have the spinal cords, we all know their spinal cords are jellyfish, but let me just go on to number 2. Number 2, they could indict Trump, and this would require Rosenstein, who is overseeing the Russia investigation, to agree to do it. And if there's a slam dunk case with overwhelming criminality, then they may just do that. And then Trump's lawyers would proceed to court, and the court can finally decide whether a sitting president can be indicted. Now, look, there's a DOJ regulation saying that a sitting president can't be indicted because it interferes with their ability to execute the executive branch functions. But the DOJ, they're not the courts. The courts must decide this issue, and they haven't decided it yet. And I am unsure whether Rosenstein has the balls to do it, though. So I'm going to hold out, but my belief is that Mueller wants to indict Trump. I'm still holding on to that belief, but it's up to Rosenstein whether that will actually ever even happen and whether they would have the balls to move forward with that. Now, the third thing that he could do is submit a report to Congress, which would be completely anticlimactic. This is the option least desirable, I am telling you, because we all know that Congress is entirely dysfunctional and likely won't do much with a report, but they'll just try to delay it till 2020. I feel the only way he does that, submits just a report, like what they're claiming he's going to submit a report on what happened happened during office. The only way he would do that is if he concludes that there isn't anything substantial enough to really bring any kind of charges and that he wouldn't be successful basically bringing any charges against Trump. That is the only way I can see him just submitting a report, or obviously if he's not entitled, unless DOJ doesn't allow him to do so. And just remember something, Manafort and Gates were both subjects of an investigation at one point. They both turned to targets. In addition, as I've said before, in order for Mueller to try to bring anything against a sitting president, it must be bulletproof. That's why I believe they've classified Trump as a subject. However, no one in the world should ever want to be the subject of a DOJ investigation. Now it's confirmed that you are part of the investigation. All this time you said you weren't, that you were not under investigation. Now it's confirmed that you are. Finally, period, you are under investigation. And I think that's why Trump has been acting so erratic lately. There's been reports that he's actually happy about it, but that can't be true because nobody in their right mind would be happy to be a subject of any investigation by the DOJ. And I think that's another reason why lawyers are refusing to represent him. It's not only because he's a horrific client, but because they know a storm is coming. Also, now, why would Mueller be submitting a report first about Trump's conduct while in office? Now, my belief is that Mueller is going to submit a report to Congress about Trump's impropriety while in office, and he's going to use that congressional report as a test. If Congress takes no action, then Mueller will use that as a gauge on how to end the Russia investigation. However, if the report calls for impeachment or recommends impeachment and Congress acts, then Mueller will likely just submit a report on the Russia investigation without further action. But if they don't act, I can't see Mueller just continuing to submit reports that have no legs that he knows aren't going to go anywhere. And then they also allege that he will be submitting the reports in increments. And it's funny to me because, like, how do you even know that he's going to submit the reports in increments? We all know that the Mueller team is not leaking. But if that's true, then he's trying to do the maximum amount of damage he can because he doesn't have the permission to indict Trump. They didn't give him permission to indict Trump. So, like, he could easily do one report summarizing everything and submit it. That would be disastrous for the rest of us. But nevertheless, we all know that Trump can weather the storm of one report. He's done it before. And the thing is, if he weathers that storm, he'll just go on with all the impropriety that he's been doing. Once that report's out, it would get about 2 weeks of coverage maximum, and eventually the story will start to fade. So, however, multiple reports continues the bleeding. It makes it harder for Trump to sustain avoiding impeachment. So if you hear that from Mueller's team directly, not from all these reports, but Mueller's team directly, that Mueller is going to be submitting multiple reports in stages that he doesn't have permission to indict Trump, or he doesn't have enough to indict Trump. But he has enough to get him impeached. So he's going to use the slow drip approach to cause the maximum amount of damage and put the maximum amount of pressure on Congress to act. All I can say is that Mueller is a badass. His ending won't be anticlimactic. It's going to be epic. It's going to be a historic finish. I'll be right back. All right, guys, thank you for staying with us. And I'm going to talk about Laura Ingraham real quickly because Laura Ingraham decided to go on vacation and after this, all these boycotts of her sponsors. And the thing is, a lot of people were angry with the left wing because they were saying the left wing is social justice warriors, et cetera, et cetera. But here's what basically happened in relation to Laura Ingraham going on vacation. I'll talk about that in a second. Here it is.
I think it's up to all of us to say that.
Ooh, sorry. Actually, I don't think I have that clip. Sorry, guys, I don't have that clip. But here is okay. Listen, let me just tell you what happened. Basically, so Laura Ingraham basically decides that she's going to go on vacation with her children, and that just happens to coincide with when she's getting boycotted and no one's deciding to watch her show anymore. So basically, the right wing was up in arms, and they're basically saying that we're social justice warriors on the left, that we have no rights to be able to be doing that, and I have opinions on that. But here is Laura Ingraham herself calling for boycotts of places that she felt didn't really coincide with her beliefs. Here it is.
I think it's up to all of us to say to these sponsors who are sponsoring these shows, what? What are you doing to our kids?
What happened to Imus? Imus was taken off the air because of that.
Well, I think
his show many times.
Many times. Yeah, and I think we as a culture can have a very positive influence on the shows that are on television.
Yeah, but here's an example.
It means that we don't need to show kids at age 13 and 14
but here's an example.
Videos. I don't think we need.
Let's go back to Imus for 1 second. Not that I want to attack you or anything. It's just that you were a regular on that show, and you're saying we should call our stations, etc. Why did you keep going back on there?
Well, I hadn't been on in about 4 years, but I absolutely agree with you. I think if you're offended by something, just like if you're offended by something a politician says or something a political party is doing, this is your culture. Fight for it.
Okay, so that was Laura Ingraham basically supporting and substantiating people's rights basically to boycott and sponsors. Look, I have no idea whether Laura Ingraham's sudden announcement of her pre-planned vacation is a consequence of losing so much revenue for Fox News. I have no idea whether she will get the boot like Bill O'Reilly or some of the others who happen to have pre-planned vacations that seem to be extended permanently. I can't speculate at this time. However, she is likely on some punishment as her face is toxic to the brand. It's literally toxic. And if she continues to lose advertisers, then she's eventually toast. It's as simple as that. However, I don't think she will be fired as the ire has subsided. It has gone down. I don't think she's going to be fired, and I don't think Fox News would fire her. However, to be clear, to the hypocritical Republicans, it's utter nonsense to pretend like her career being destroyed is because of a different form of politics on the left. The right engaged in horrific tactics to ruin the career of Andrew McCabe, James Comey, and have tried to destroy Hollywood actors, reporters, kids, politicians. You engage in the exact same tactics when it suits your interests. However, you feign hysteria when the left attempts to exercise their right to oppose someone. The truth is, I don't oppose your right to exercise your political positions, but I do oppose you infringing on mine. I have the right to refuse to support a brand that advertises on a program I find offensive. That's my right. I further have the right to tell them that I will not support them if they support something I'm adamantly opposed to. That's my right. You also have the right to reject any company that refuses to advertise with Laura Ingraham. That's your right. But your fake outrage over people exercising their right to decide who they will support shows your true snowflake character. Stop the hypocrisy on the right that has profited off of pretending that they are the party of freedom and the Constitution. The problem with your false claims is that many of you don't know what the Constitution says and don't understand what freedom means. If the right would stop trying to control the minds of the masses and accept the fact that opposing views are standard in democratic societies, we wouldn't have all these frauds out here profiting off of screaming social justice warriors, snowflakes, and libtards for a living. Laura Ingraham isn't immune from criticism for her abhorrent conduct. Even Laura Ingraham agrees. If Laura Ingraham's career is ruined, it's not because of David-Hogg, the leftists, or the libtards. She did damage to herself. So stop your snowflake whining and crying and displacement of blame and focus on getting less detestable people to carry your banner. All right, fabulous people, that does it for me. I hope you guys enjoy your Saturday. Don't forget to check out SylviaExpress.com. I'm going to have more Trump regrets because the imposter's going down. The ship is sinking. I'm telling you, a storm is coming, and it's not just Stormy Daniels. So anyway, till next time, guys, have a good weekend. I will see you next week. Take care.